you or your client terrified of losing muscle mass whilst dropping body fat?
I'm so scared right now.
Well, you bloody well should be, because it is hard work to build muscle. And when we lose body fat, there's always going to be a risk of losing some of that hard-earned muscle whilst dropping the body fat. So in today's episode, I'm going to be covering some scientifically backed strategies to reduce body fat safely whilst maintaining your hard-earned muscle mass. If you do like today's episode, as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And even better, leave me a review, please. That'd be fantastic. So, why is this interesting to me? Why is this interesting to you? Well, I think it's pretty much the holy grail, isn't it? Everybody wants to drop some body fat and build some muscle mass. All right, not everybody, but most people. Now, I have been working in the industry now for 25 years, and I can safely say 90% of anyone who's ever contacted me wanted to drop body fat. Now, people typically use the word weight loss, don't they? I want to lose weight. I want to lose weight. It's not weight you want to lose, it's fat you want to lose. Because if it was weight, you just go and get your leg amputated, wouldn't you? Well, you wouldn't do that. That's ridiculous. But you get my point. When we're trying to lose weight, it's a very specific type of weight that we're trying to lose. We're trying to lose our fat for several reasons. Yes, I know fat's a lovely energy supply for long sustained periods of exercise. But let's be honest, 1 pound of fat is 3,500 calories. That's enough to fuel a marathon. So I think we've all got enough fat to sustain bodily functions. We don't necessarily need to keep all this excess storage. Of course, one of the other issues with all this excess body fat that we like to store is it surrounds our organs, which isn't good for us. It leads to a number of different health complications and medical conditions. And if you're an athlete, then excess fat is it's like excess baggage. You know, if you're a sprinter, it's like taking a backpack with you with some excess weight in it. You know, any sport you play where you've got to cover a distance over a certain period of time, whether that's a short period of time, whether that's a long period of time, it is dead weight. Whether you're an athlete or whether you're a fitness enthusiast, a health enthusiast, reducing body fat for a lot of people is going to be a primary goal. All right, I've babbled on about that for long enough. So let me get down to the nitty gritty of how do we go about doing this. Number one, my biggest non-negotiable is strength training. And when I say strength training, I mean resistance training. Resistance training, that umbrella term that basically covers dumbbells, barbells, kettlebells, calisthenics. I don't care what it is. You just aim to get stronger. When you're using it, you don't lose it. And this is the problem. When we enter into a calorie deficit, which you have to do if you want to drop body fat, body is going to want to break down whatever it can. So we want to stop it from choosing our hard-earned muscle mass by using it. I think it was Jim Carrey, wasn't it, that said, use it or you lose it. It's true when it comes to body fat. If we're in that calorie deficit and we're not using those muscles, we massively increase that risk that they're going to get metabolized to use for energy. So use them. You know, give your body a reason to keep that hard-earned muscle mass. Keep using it. Strength train. Just make sure that you're training with the emphasis on getting stronger. Now, the other reason I'm a massive fan of strength training, resistance training, whatever you want to call it, not only does it help us maintain our muscle mass while we're dropping our body fat, you know, for some of you guys that are what we call newbies, you know, first getting into it, it is possible to build a bit of muscle mass whilst dropping the body fat as well. And the great thing about that is you're increasing your metabolism. So lifting weights, doing your strength training, your resistance training, it will increase your metabolism while you're training. So you're obviously burning off more calories while you're doing it. When you're resting and, you know, in recovery, you'll have something called what we call the afterburn effect, or if you want to get really sciencey, EPOC. And this is where even at rest, your metabolism is elevated because it's kind of kicking in all the repair processes. And that's going to take up energy to do that. So you're burning calories while you're doing your resistance training, you're burning calories recovering from your resistance training, and then larger muscles burn up more calories. The bulk of your resting metabolism is based on the amount of muscle mass you have. So if you are a muscular person, you can basically eat more. Your resting metabolic rate, your BMI, your basal metabolic rate, is higher because you have more muscle mass. So even just increasing like half a kilo of muscle, which is nothing, you will increase your daily calorie expenditure by about 50 calories, roughly. If you're dropping body fat, you've got to do your resistance training. Use it or you will lose it. Now, we all know those people that try to lose weight just by diet alone, and they're getting on the scales are showing that they are losing weight. Brilliant, well done. There is a slight downside to that, and some of you listening, watching might have experienced this. You're losing mass as you go. So yes, you're getting lighter on the scales, and you might even think, looking at yourself in the mirror, you're looking better and you feel better about yourself, and that's great. But because your muscles are getting smaller, your metabolism is going down, which means when you go back to eating how you used to eat prior to this diet that you're on, you're going to have a rebound effect. You're going to put the weight back on, and probably more, because you now have a lower muscle mass, a lower resting metabolism. You get my drift. If you do it diet and cardio, again, it's not a good idea. Long sustained cardio is catabolic to muscles, especially if you do something like long distance ultra marathon type stuff. You are going to break down everything you can: carbohydrates, fat, and proteins in your muscles. The next thing I want to talk about is having a sustainable calorie deficit, because there are a lot of diets out there. I'm not going to get into intermittent fasting because I think there actually is a lot of benefits. There's a lot of health benefits to doing it, and I don't think it's a massive problem. But if your goal is to maintain your muscle mass whilst dropping body fat, I don't think it's the most optimal method. Probably want to be a little bit more strategic about things, and that's getting a calorie deficit that is just at the right point where you're encouraging that breakdown of stored body fat. You're not dipping into that muscle mass. And in order to do that, you don't really want to have more than a deficit of 500 calories. Now, the American College of Sports Medicine will say you can have a deficit up to 1,000 calories a day. So let's say you burn off 3,000 calories with your basal metabolic rate and all the exercise that you do, not just the planned exercise, but the general sort of movement, fidgeting throughout the day. Let's say that that's 3,000 calories. And you go with the American College of Sports Medicine and you say, right, I'm going to just eat 2,000 calories a day. So that's 1,000 calorie deficit. On paper, that's going to equate to about a 2 pound fat loss at the end of the week, or a 0.9 kilo fat loss at the end of the week, which is great. However, the closer you are to that kind of maximal deficit, the more likely you are to break down some muscle mass, and you will have a tougher time with it. You're going to be a lot more hangry, probably are going to have a few mood swings, probably is going to affect your energy levels. You're probably just going to be thinking about food a lot. So I would say slow and steady wins the race. Play the long game, meet somewhere in the middle, go for that 500 calorie deficit. And if you really want to play the longer game, go a 250 deficit. You're consistently dropping body fat, and it's very unlikely you're going to lose any mass if you're doing that, if you're doing that resistance training as well. So just to make that clear, 1,000 calorie deficit per day is the maximum recommendation, but I actually personally think that's too much. 500 would be my preferred deficit. 250 is really playing it safe. Okay, next, I want you to prioritize your protein for a few reasons, actually. So we can probably link back to the first one with strength training. So we've already mentioned how important it is, use it or lose it. We want to keep that muscle mass. We want to use that muscle mass so we don't lose it. And one of the best ways to do that is to fuel that muscle with protein. So we haven't got enough protein coming in, it's likely we're going to break down the muscle to get that protein. So feed the muscle protein. When you're trying to build muscle or keep it, you want to go high protein. The other thing is protein is great for satiety. So feeling like when you're eating something and it's got, it's very satiating, meaning it makes you feel full. There's a ton of research out there that shows that when people eat a higher protein diet from the right sources, they eat less calories throughout the day. Now, on top of that, the digestive system burns up calories by processing protein. So it actually takes a bit of work to break protein down, or use up a bit of energy doing that. So whatever the calories you get from protein, they're not actually the same as calories you'd get from other macronutrients, because you will lose some of those calories in the breakdown process. Now you're watching this and you're probably thinking, yeah, this is all very well, John. I get it. Protein's important, makes me feel full. It's going to maintain my muscle mass. But how much? If you're trying to gain muscle mass or you're trying to preserve it in a deficit, you do want to go quite high to maximize those chances. Around 1.5 or 1.6 grams per kilo of body weight is your starting point, and possibly more. Some of you guys are going to need more than that. Now, carbohydrates are a couple of things that they're going to be doing during this period. Is they are going to be giving you fuel. I mean, at the end of the day, your blood sugar is carbohydrate. And when your blood sugars get low, often people feel nauseous, tired, grumpy. They're not very alert. So you do want to kind of keep your blood sugars relatively stable, and carbohydrates are going to do that. So you are going to need some carbohydrates, but it's choosing the right ones. If you go for something that's high glycemic, sugary, processed foods, anything that spikes your blood sugar quickly, like white bread, white pasta, that stuff is going to ramp up your blood sugar quickly. So try and choose carbohydrates that are whole grain, unprocessed, sensible carbohydrates. If you look at a food and you think, yeah, that's definitely been heavily processed, then it's probably not going to be good for you, is it? So try and opt for something that looks as close to its original form as possible. And that's going to be a good source of carbohydrate. And don't go crazy with it. When you're looking at your plate, you want your high protein source there, good wholesome whole grain carbs, and obviously get your vegetables and your vegetables in there as well. Now, some of you listening and watching might be thinking, yeah, what about cardio? Because I was always taught that if you want to lose weight, do a load of cardio. That's not wrong. I just would argue it's not optimal. I love getting outdoors, running over the downs. I love getting a backpack on, hiking. I like going on a treadmill or a row in a gym. Like, I love that feeling that my heart is thumping. I get all the endorphins from it. I love all that stuff. Don't get me wrong. And it does burn off calories. Of course it does. But when you're looking at your week and your training program across your week, it's hard to fit everything in. And when you are trying to recomposition your body, boost the muscle mass or keep it, drop body fat, your time is much better spent doing your strength training, doing your resistance training. Now, if you've got some time, you can fit it in, get some cardio in there, but make sure the volume of that cardio definitely doesn't exceed the volume of the lifting that you're doing, the weights that you're doing. So you could do like Tabata's great, isn't it? 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, times 8, hit it hard on a rower, hit it hard on a bike, and really work those heart and lungs, but keep it short duration. You can do some longer stuff. You can get out there on your bike and you do some swimming and some running, but just be careful not to do a high volume of that sort of stuff. Yeah, I do a Saturday morning run, 10K every Saturday without fail. And I do that because I love it. I love getting outdoors. I love how it makes me feel. And I always want to be able to do that. Is it best for my goals? No, the strength training, the resistance training, that's the best for my goals. But I still do my Saturday morning 10K run because I like it. Now, I've written articles in the past about NEAT, so non-exercise activity thermogenesis. If you haven't heard about that, look it up. But essentially, it's your movement that isn't planned exercise. So I have a standing desk. I walk to work. If I'm going to my place of work, I will walk there. I walk back. I look for excuses to walk rather than use the car. I'll never get a lift. I'll always use the stairs. So that's your neat stuff. And that's been shown to be far more significant and superior for burning up calories than even just going to the gym for an hour. So I would definitely look at encouraging you to do more neat and non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Just move more. It doesn't matter what your goal is, sleep is going to be fundamental to the achievement of that goal, because so much important stuff happens when you're asleep. So really focus on the quality of your sleep. So if you want to maintain that muscle mass while dropping body fat, that muscle is going to be repaired fully and optimized, not while you're training. You're breaking it down when you're training. It's being repaired while you're asleep. So the more you can sleep, the more repair and the more maintenance and growth of your muscles you're going to get. Really prioritize your sleep. Now, I'm not going to go into all the different things you can do to optimize your sleep. That's a different podcast, isn't it? But it's the usual stuff. Go to bed at the same time every night, get up at the same time every morning, 7 days a week. Try and do that as best you can. Make sure your environment is great for sleeping, right temperature. Don't play on your phone just before you go to sleep. Ideally, at least an hour. Just reading a nice, relaxing book to candlelight is ideal. One of those little salt lamps, something like that. You know how you should be optimizing your sleep. You don't need my help on that one, but just make it a priority. Now, whether it's you as a fitness professional or whether you are training a client and using this advice here, you want to be tracking stuff. You've got to be tracking what's going on, because everything out there, like these protein requirements I mentioned, micronutrient requirements, everything that is out there that says, we should be doing this and we should have this and do that and the other, even with the hours of sleep. That's all general guidelines. I mean, they're pretty good. They're pretty good guidelines, but they are general guidelines and we are individuals. And the art, I think, really behind being a good coach or a good trainer is really understanding the individual that you're working with and personalizing things for them. Personalize things as much as you can. And by tracking progress, you can do that. You can't do that until you track progress. So start with the guidelines and go from there. So if you get to the end of the week and it's not quite going the way you thought it should, it might be that you need a bit more protein. It might be that you just need to up the calories a bit, and that could be with the protein, or that could be with a few more carbs because they're feeling very sluggish and hangry and things like that. Or it might be that when you talk to them, they're only getting 2 strength sessions in, and that's just not enough. They maybe need to get 3 in or 4. Whatever you start with, that's just the start. Where the real sort of magic comes in is the tracking as you go, tracking their mental health as well. That's going to come into it because that's linked to overtraining and the data that you're recording on training logs and things. When you're in a calorie deficit, the very least you can hope for is you're maintaining your performance. If somebody's dropping body fat and they're improving their performance, lifting more or doing more reps, you're doing well. You're a great coach. Keep it up. Okay, let's wrap it up there. So final takeaways, no takeaways. Final takeaways is don't have takeaways. Make sure you prioritize resistance training. When I say resistance training, strength training, same thing, interchangeable. So lift some bloody weights is what I'm saying. Number 2 is make sure that calorie deficit isn't a crazy deficit. Intermittent fasting's got its benefits. I just don't think it's optimal for that careful dropping of body fat whilst maintaining muscle mass. Track what you're doing carefully and go for maybe a 500 calorie deficit, possibly even 250 if you want to play the long game. Do we do cardio? Can do, but prioritize your strength and resistance training first. So get that in. If you've got time and you want to put some cardio in there, get some in there, but make sure that doesn't exceed the amount of volume that you're doing for your resistance training, your strength training. Make sure you're hitting your protein goal. So 1.5, 1.6 grams per kilo or more. You can go up to 2.2. You can go higher than that actually, but I've never actually got a client to do more than 2.2. If I was training a bodybuilder, maybe I'd have to. Prioritize sleep and recovery. Make sure you're getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Keep tracking that progress. It's not just about what the scales say. Get a collection of measurements that inform you. So if you've got the data of the lifting, what they're doing with the lifts, if you've got the waist circumference, hip circumference, the body weight, if you have got access to the body fat analysis stuff as well, collectively, that's going to tell you a lot. It's going to tell you a lot. And also just how they're feeling, how are they feeling? mentally, are they doing all right? If they're feeling that they're really low energy levels and they're just not alert and they're feeling grumpy all the time. We do need to lead by example. So if this is something you specialize in as a PT, make sure you prioritize it yourself. I've gone through periods in my career where I've gained a lot, and I'm trying to lose now. I've lost some, but I need to lose some more. And I'm down to a healthy range now, but there was a point where I was out of a healthy range, and I felt like an imposter, and rightly so. Do you know what? Rightly bloody so. So I'm on it, and I think don't beat yourself up about these things, but we are health professionals, we are fitness professionals. We should, at the very least, we should be modeling this stuff to our clients. It's not do as I say, not as I do. It's do as I do more than what I say, actually. Not to dig you out, of course, but I do believe in setting good examples and role modeling health and fitness. So if you've enjoyed listening to that, if you felt like you've learned something from that, then do please subscribe. And if you know anybody else you think would like to listen to this and watch this, then share it with them. That'd be great. Likes, comments, all that stuff. So helpful for me. If you do want to take that next step, if you're a fitness enthusiast that is thinking, do you know what? I think I'd like to be a PT, then get in contact. I mean, you can just go ahead and purchase on the website. It's all there. But if you do want to get a bit more information, have a chat, then do submit a contact form. And also, if you are a fitness professional and you're thinking, I think it's time to upskill and you want to get your level 4 strength and conditioning, then again, reach out to me or go onto the website. If you need some help building your business, we've got an amazing business course that guides you step by step on everything you need to do for that. So there we go. Well, I hope you enjoyed that and enjoy the rest of your day.